She said tea.
Okay, y'all, so I have some great news. So I read an article today, basically says that Penelope Ford is still under contract with AEW, that she had to take some personal time off and also to heal from injuries that she had. And this explains a lot why, she was tagging up with Megan Bain, and then most of the time she would accompany Megan Bain to the ring, and they would have tag matches, and then without any talking about it, any mentioning of it, you just didn't see Penelope Ford anymore. And then Lena Cross comes. Now, she was in the ring with, the two of them. So we've seen all three of them together. So I think that would be foolish of Tony Khan. Now, things do happen. And then contracts, are not renewed, or whether it's the company or the wrestler, but that's not the case. She's still under contract with AEW, and like I said, so is Camille, and so is Ruby Soho. And I talked about in the previous video of their return, whether it's all in or not. For me, more so of Tony Storm turn or whatever. And then I was thinking too, I don't know what the plans is with Penelope Ford. Does she come out at All In and cause, the Divine Dominion to lose? Who knows? And a lot of times in pro wrestling, when you have a person that was, a part of a certain group or something, they end up with the heel turn or the face turn. And usually it's one of those, no, not one phone call, no emails, no text messages, nothing. You just abandoned me or whatever. Who knows? But either way, I don't know. I think that would be her plan with Fido, to try to go out and mess with both of them. And that's just me saying that, as far as possibility, maybe, who knows? I don't know. Or did she come out and help them win to retain? I don't know. I do feel like whether it's at All In or not, that eventually the Brawling Birds will definitely, as far as I'm concerned, one day become champion. I love seeing Megan Bain and Lena Cross with the titles, though. Definitely love seeing them with it. I love watching the Brawling Birds as well. So I think either way, you'd have two strong teams. And when you have former world champions, TBS champions and all, whatever, they're fighting for the tag titles. This is why, too, AEW's tag team division is so strong. Because usually when it comes to pro wrestling, the other company, the tone that they have set was that if you were world championship material, that you didn't want the U.S. title anymore, or the TV title, or whatever, the United States title, the tag titles. You only wanted the world championship. So those other belts were belts you got before you became world champion. And this is one of the reasons that style has become so stagnated. That process has become so stagnated, and this is why the belts don't mean anything in the other company. Not only is it bad writing, but just the thinking process. So what prestige is behind your belt if the only people that win your belt is up and coming wrestlers? But then the camouflage is, if those wrestlers, the ones that have staying power and longevity, they'll say, he held the belt, this one had the belt, this one held the belt, right? But so what? So what? And this is why none of the belts really mean anything. None of them. Not even the world championship means anything. It's all just a prop for you to come out and hold and say, hey, I'm the world champion. But there's no prestige, nothing behind the way the belts are being defended. There's no honor behind it. There's nothing. It's just a bunch of arguing and positioning. And that's all it is. It has nothing to do with, I'm going to go out and perform and fight for my title. It's just, I'm going to go out and follow the script. We clearly see it. So this also, this is why. Like, example, the United States Championship is supposed to be defended. I don't care what company, in the United States, right? Now, if you defend it outside of the United States, it defeats the purpose. So this belt is to be defended in the United States. Okay. The TV title is supposed to be defended on TV. It's simple, on TV. Now, doesn't mean you can't defend it on the paper at a pay-per-view, and the pay-per-view is still on TV, but it's it's the TV title. Okay. The national title is supposed to be defended nationally. The international championship, internationally. That's why they're named. So what happens when you name a title, but the titles are all being defended the same exact way? No stipulations, no rules or regulations, nothing. Just a belt with a different name. Like example, I love the fact that the title that what does Moxley have? What's the name of this title? Is it the national or international championship? But whichever one, his title, no outside interference. So this is straight up one-on-one. That makes that title so relevant. This is what I'm saying about these titles are like, it's like they all have relevancy. So there's nobody in AEW, like in other words, see, MJF will say some asinine shit like he don't want the TNT championship or something, or like it's a secondary, like, because he's an asshole. So his mindset, maybe he don't want it, or his characters, he doesn't want it, right? But the reality is that title is defended, it's won and represented by people that are hungry, just like the TBS championship. Sheeta was world champion. Now, if you're going to say, I don't want that championship, it means nothing, then it's like you have a wrestler on your roster that is disrespecting the legacy of these championships, right? The whole idea of their existence, the purpose of their existence. And this is what they're doing. So people feel like, nobody cares about that belt. This is the logic that you start to build in people. They don't care about that belt. That's nothing. So we don't need 10 MJFs saying, I don't want that belt. I don't care about that belt. Who cares, right? This is why when I hear people say things, it's like, bro, the storylines are not always well received when you have a lot going on in terms of just back and forth banter without thinking about what you're saying. There's no championship in any company that should be secondary. Okay? The only championships in any company that should not be seen as a major championship, it's not that it should be seen as major, but not the top championship, is a championship that's only held, right, in development to get you to that next level. This is why it looks stupid to see Bailey or Rhea Ripley or somebody go and wrestle in NXT and lose to them, because NXT isn't developmental. So it's not so much the NXT World Championship, but any other championship, right? If you label it secondary, then it doesn't mean anything. That just, like, if it's labeled a rookie title, some type of rookie title, do you understand what I'm saying? A belt amongst the rookies. That's the whole point of what I'm saying. Because now you're no longer a rookie. You're pro level. Do you understand what I'm saying? How many years do you put in the sport that you're not a rookie? You understand what I'm saying? You're no longer a rookie. 10 years? 8, 10? What? Right? Everybody don't develop the same way. Some people develop a lot faster. So if you haven't won the rookie title, it should be, the stipulation is, it's a title that you win before you become a pro. This way, it would make the youth, the younger wrestlers, or whoever, they would make these people go harder. The belt would mean something to them. And then you elevate and move on. You should never have a situation where these rookies are fighting against the pros. Because if the attitude is that, well, for that one person, if it turns out that that one person is able to beat a pro, then how many more people can beat the pros? Now, it's like you call it a rookie belt, but you got pros on your list that lost to these rookies. This is my point. These rookies should not be in there with the pros at this point. The problem with that idea is that people don't have a big enough roster to do that. You see what I'm saying? They don't have a big enough roster. That's why that concept can't work. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is why when you have a belt and it's like seen as a secondary belt, who wants it? Who cares about it? Like, who really cares? Because if I'm a top level performer, but I'm losing to secondary belt holding wrestlers, then doesn't that make me look bad? Doesn't that put me in a position? Doesn't that put me in a position of being overrated? Because if that person could, like, just say, let me give you for an example, right? Who's a rookie in wrestling right now? Who's a rookie right now? And I'm talking about a rookie, not somebody that's just not well known but been doing this for a while. I mean a rookie. Bottom line, if you can take somebody, just say for example, if you take somebody that's been wrestling for 3 years, right? But say they develop very well, and they're very good performers. If you have that happen and say that person goes in there and say they beat Kenny Omega, right? You beat Kenny Omega, but you've been wrestling for 3 years. You don't beat Kenny Omega, right? And then go and lose to, Daniel Garcia or lose to Hook. Not that they're not excellent wrestlers, but what I'm saying is Kenny would beat both of them. This is what I'm saying. So you don't go out and have them wrestling stupid matches. That's why you have to understand the difference of a title meaning something versus it's not meaning anything. So when you have that balance, Hook or a Daniel Garcia should be able to wrestle Kenny Omega and possibly pull off the upset. You see the point what I'm saying? Because now it's like if you're holding that TNT championship, so what? It's just a secondary belt. But that's why AEW is different. And that's why all the outside haters try to flip that narrative around because they know, like, damn, their belts actually mean something. Now, if you don't know the history of pro wrestling on TNT and TBS, then you don't know what's going on. You should just shut up because you're just talking what you don't know. But this is why. If you're the face of TBS, if you're the face of TNT, nobody wants a secondary belt to do that. And for that matter, you think that an independent wrestling company belt should be higher than the TBS championship or the TNT championship or the national championship, the international championship? You understand what I'm saying? No, absolutely not. Tournament wrestling, like everything has to have a purpose. See, the King of the Ring is a bragging rights tournament that don't really have any real purpose other than that. Come out with a damn scepter or crown and a fucking cape. The Owen Hart, the Continental Classic, these are legit tournaments for badass wrestlers that go in there and put on. So when you win that and you have that championship, and I like the way that they're giving diversity to how the belt's being defended, with as far as now they have a tournament before the actual Continental Classic. Like, this is what I'm saying. You need for this to happen. If you're going to come up with these concepts, your concepts should have meaning and purpose. Your concepts should not just be, let's just call this something and make up some stupid stipulations. And when you finish explaining to the fans what the stipulations are, they have more questions and answers because it's like, what the hell is this? Not to say any names, but John Cena classic. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's what it should be. Our belts mean something. Our tournaments mean something. Every stipulation, things that we do, it means something. You saw how ECW with the whole hardcore matches, it was like to the point it became overkill. So now there's no thrill anymore. You see a hardcore match almost every show, then there's no thrill. I mean, we've already seen, last week somebody get busted open with a garbage can. The week before that, somebody got hit in the head with a chair. The week before that, somebody got one of those light, the long tube lights smashed over the head. The week before that, somebody went through thumbtacks. The week before that, somebody went through a flaming table. You can't do this every week. It can't happen often. This is why you have special events. That's why you don't have cage matches every week, every other week. You don't have battle royals every week, every other week. That's why you save these different match types for special moments, for special events. And this is where I say people keep trying to put AEW in the same boat as the other company, and it's simply not. and for the better. And bottom line, who wants to fight for a secondary belt or a third or fourth string belt? That's the whole point. You have a belt that means nothing. So pretty much on that logic, by that logic, whoever have these sub belts means everybody who's ever held the world championship and you haven't yet, they can beat you. So now when you beat them, it's like, oh, he beat, no. Like you, how long do you want to be an underdog, man? At some point, you reach a certain status. You guys are on the same level. Somebody is better than somebody else, but you're on the same level. You understand what I mean? You don't go backwards, man. You can't. But yeah, just saying, Penelope Ford is still with AEW. She's still all elite. I always like Penelope Ford. She's somebody that, you don't know in development, like what character changes may happen. I think that when you've been gone for a long time, and you come back, there should be something different about you, whether it's your look, your style, something you've added to your stuff, whatever. It's not going to happen with everybody, all the time, of course. But I think that you definitely should have something about you that's different. I swear to you, man, I look at Maxine Dupree, and I said her look was gorgeous. But the character changes is always this. This is what I see wrestling do wrong. So many companies do this wrong. The character change just because you have a different look, right? You're a heel, but you're a typical heel. You understand what I mean? Or you turn face, but you're just a typical face. It has to be work. It has to be, look around. What don't we have on this roster? What type of character? What's different about this person? This is what I loved about, what's the chick's name? The one that used to come out and do all these holes. She had all these wrestling holes. She was trying to mentor Queen Amanada. I forgot her damn name. She would come out and she had all this little notepad of all these different moves and holes that she knew. And now my thing is this, right? She could wrestle, but it's always more appealing to the people when a person that's more considered on the attractive side can do something like that. This is why I said, even looking at Maxine Dupree, I said, she has a great look now. That silly, goofy stuff she was doing. But there's nothing that she brings to the ring physically. So a character change should come with, I have a different move set. I have added more moves. I do things differently. My cadence is different. My movements, how I move in the ring, the facial expressions, all the little things matter. Otherwise, you just have a great look, but pretty much the same, same weak move set, nothing different. Ivy Nile, great look. Nothing different about it. Same thing. And this is why you got to think about, it's like, just say, for example, if you go to watch a show, right? And I know y'all get it, but let me just so you really have it really hit home. If you went to watch a show, right? Now, let's just say everybody that came on stage, whether they sang or whether they rapped, they just stood in one spot with the microphone up on the stand, just singing. So even if you love the melody, right? At some point, it becomes kind of boring because everybody's up there just doing the same thing. If somebody came out and all of a sudden, and let's say they were singing all slow songs. Now, you might love the songs, but I guarantee you, if you done heard 4 or 5 different artists come out and all perform a bunch of slow songs standing in one spot, if somebody come out there and all of a sudden the tempo hits and it's a faster tempo and they start busting out dance moves and I guarantee you the crowd go nuts now because you got to change your pace. This is why you have to have different, what didn't we have on this show? So now when you book that show for the next time, all right, who's going to be the headliner? The guy or the woman that got the crowd on their feet, right? But don't that make you think as a promoter, all right, I love who we had on this card, but it's not much going on stage. It's kind of now if you advertise it as a slow song type of show, then yeah, people know what to expect. But see, this is what I'm saying. It's basically a show, and you look at the names that you have. but you're not looking at the stage performance. You're not looking at the whole ball of wax of, damn, you know what? Imagine. So it's like you have to have a well-balanced show. And this is where, when it comes to character change, when it comes to, it's not just the change, it's can we make this character better? Can we reinvent this character? You understand what I'm saying? Can we put this person in a position where the fans gravitate towards them? Nikki Cross is a perfect example as well as how it didn't work for her. She went from being a psycho to a superhero to a demon. And none of it worked for her. I mean, they liked the superhero because stuff, but they didn't. Her character initially didn't get a reaction from the fans for the most part. The superhero stuff was working for as far as the fans liking her, but then just like that, when it wasn't working, I remember they turned her heel, and I think it was with Rhea Ripley, but they turned her heel, and when they turned her heel, her stock went down. She disappears for a while. They bring her back. And before that, she went back to the psycho Nikki Cross. Disappear again, and they bring her back as a part of the Wyatt Six. And it's like, it just didn't work with the fans. Now to have them in the ring all together and have them come out against the group that the fans don't like, but the Wyatt Six is coming out as the heroes. Yeah, the fans will only cheer for them, not because of who they are, but because of who they're going against. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, that's a perfect example of how a character change didn't work. And it didn't work for the better. It didn't work at all. Nothing happened. Nothing changed. But the reaction that you get, and when they look at who and what you are and how you do things, I think people just get so complacent that they don't want to put that effort in, man. That's why, like I said, if the Undertaker went from Mean Mark Callis and the look he had then to this dead man look, and he was just doing the same exact things as Mean Mark Callis, then what's the purpose of the look? Sting, had different looks, but when he went to this crow look, that came with no talking, silence, standing up on the rafters with a fucking crow on his shoulder. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like that was like the dopest shit ever, man. So when I'm looking at that, this is what I'm talking about. His cadence was different. Now he got the baseball bat. He'll hand the bat to you, turn around, give you a shot to take a chance to take a shot at him to see if you on his side or if you're against him. So, I mean, it was so many different things that was going on, man. That look in his face, it's so many things. I mean, people talked about that dumb look that Shawn Michaels used to have on his face, that little cross-eyed, stupid looking shit he used to do. I ain't give a fuck about none of that. But there's people that noticed it and they thought it was cool. So little things like that you think is little are not so little when it fits in. It's just like when you make a song. You got a beat, that beat is knocking. Now this is just a beat. Then all of a sudden you add a bass to that. Oh damn. Now it's really knocking. Then all of a sudden you add a piano or a guitar, a sax, like, you understand? Little things, little hi-hats, little things that you don't realize make a big difference. Did you guys ever see the interview with Sheila E? She said Michael Jackson's song "Off the Wall." That little part, did you hear that? Got that little that's Sheila E saying that Michael Jackson was like beatboxing, like making the sound of what he wanted. And she said they didn't have anything that could emulate that sound, right? So the idea that they came up with was she took a glass, filled the glass up with water, took a spoon and was beating to make that little, that's her beating a glass with a spoon. Who knew that? If she don't tell you that story, we don't know that. We just think it's something that, was in the instruments. So it's little things. And you go, damn, that makes a huge difference. That's pro wrestling, and those elements should not be ignored. So, does Penelope Ford come back with a new look, a new gimmick? I don't know. Did she come back with Divine Dominion? Did she go solo? I don't know, but she's still under contract. I just thought that was great news, because when you don't see a person, you don't know what the situation is. But anytime you don't, like I said, when it comes to AEW and you don't see the person, people start assuming they're going to the other company. It's one of those things, even vice versa. And it's not necessarily the case, but she's still all elite. That's all I got for you guys now. Catch you guys on the next video.